When we think about what our phones give us, the first thought that usually comes to mind is connection. They promise to keep us close to the people we love, accessible to those who need us, and in touch with the world around us. With a simple tap, we can send a message, share a photo, or make a call across thousands of miles. On the surface, it feels like the very thing we've always longed for: constant, uninterrupted closeness. But if we look a little deeper, if we're willing to be honest with ourselves, we'll see that the promise doesn't always match the reality. Because in the very pursuit of connection, many of us are experiencing something else entirely: isolation. Think about the last time you sat in a room with friends or family. Maybe everyone was gathered around a table. Maybe a television was on in the background. Maybe laughter was filling the air. And yet, in the middle of all of that, what so often happens? Someone's head lowers toward a screen, then another, then another. Before long, the very people who are closest to us in proximity become the farthest away in spirit. We may be sitting shoulder to shoulder, but our hearts and minds are elsewhere. And if we're not careful, those small, subtle moments become a way of life. That's the great paradox. We have the ability to communicate instantly with anyone on Earth, and yet so many are lonelier than ever before. And it's not just a feeling, it's a measurable reality. Studies show that rates of loneliness and social isolation have been climbing steadily in recent years, even as our devices become more sophisticated. We scroll through endless feeds filled with updates from hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. But the question we ought to ask is, how many of those connections are real? How many of those people truly know us? How many of them would notice if we were gone? There's something about the way smartphones have shaped our interactions that makes relationships shallow. Instead of long conversations that stretch into the night, we settle for short texts, emojis, and likes. Instead of knocking on a neighbor's door or inviting a friend over for coffee, we send a quick message and convince ourselves that it's enough, because our souls were not made for fragments of communication. They were not designed to survive on surface-level exchanges. We were created for presence, for eye contact, for the kind of laughter that echoes in a room, for the silence that sits comfortably between two people who truly understand one another. And yet, the more time we spend on our phones, the less time we spend cultivating those deeper bonds. The illusion of connection becomes a substitute for the real thing. It gives us just enough of a taste to quiet the hunger temporarily, but it never satisfies. It's like trying to live on fast food. It might fill you up for a moment, but it leaves you weaker, emptier, and longing for something substantial. Now, let me say this. Technology itself is not the enemy. These devices are tools, and in their proper place, they can bless our lives. They allow us to stay in touch with distant family, to share words of encouragement, to learn to grow. But when they move from serving us to mastering us, when they begin to replace the kind of genuine connection we desperately need, that's when they become dangerous. Because what we lose in the process is not just time, it's relationship, intimacy, and the sense of belonging that makes life rich. And here's the sobering truth. We don't always recognize what's happening until it's too late. We drift into this isolation slowly, almost invisibly. A few minutes on the phone at dinner, a glance at a notification in the middle of a conversation, a habit of scrolling late into the night instead of reaching out to someone who matters. But over time, those small habits create a wall, and before long we find ourselves feeling misunderstood, unseen, and alone, even though we're supposedly more connected than ever. So what's the alternative? It's not about throwing the phone away or rejecting technology entirely. It's about reclaiming what matters most. It's about choosing to look up instead of down, to listen instead of scroll, to invest in the people right in front of us instead of chasing the illusion of connection online. It's about remembering that the human heart is not satisfied by likes or retweets or comments. It's nourished by love, by presence, by genuine fellowship. When we do that, something powerful happens. Relationships deepen. Conversations gain weight. Friendships strengthen. Families grow closer. And the loneliness that so often shadows our generation begins to lift, replaced by the joy of being truly known and truly connected. If there's one thing these little devices have mastered, it's their ability to steal our attention. And I don't use that word lightly. They don't just borrow it. They don't just ask politely for a moment here or there. They take it, and they hold on to it with a grip that's stronger than most of us realize. Every ping, every buzz, every glowing light is carefully crafted to pull us in. And before we know it, what was meant to be a tool becomes a trap, and what was meant to save us time ends up consuming the very hours of our lives. Think for a moment about your day. How often do you check your phone without even realizing it? You're in the middle of something important, maybe a project at work, maybe helping your child with homework, maybe sitting quietly with a cup of coffee. And then the sound goes off. Instantly, your focus shifts. You grab the phone, swipe the screen, and a flood of information pours in. Maybe it's a message, maybe it's an update, maybe it's a news alert. And then, just like that, your mind is no longer where it was. Your energy is scattered. What had your full attention a moment ago is now left unfinished. That's the cycle we're caught in. These devices are intentionally designed, to keep us engaged. Behind every app is a team of people studying human behavior, learning how to trigger our instincts, how to give us just enough dopamine to keep us coming back for more. They call it engagement, but let's be honest, it's addiction. It's the subtle rewiring of our brains so that silence feels unbearable, so that stillness feels unproductive, so that focus feels impossible. And the tragedy is, it robs us of what really matters. Productivity isn't just about getting more done. It's about doing the right things, the things that bring purpose, the things that carry weight. But when our time is fractured into 1,000 tiny interruptions, when our attention is scattered across meaningless notifications, we lose the ability to give ourselves fully to anything. Projects remain half-finished. Conversations are left incomplete. Our best energy is wasted on trivial distractions, and the very dreams God has placed in our hearts get buried under an avalanche of noise. You see, attention is one of the most valuable resources we have. Where our attention goes, our life goes. What we focus on shapes who we become. And yet, many of us are giving away that treasure for free without even thinking about it. We spend hours scrolling, hours reacting, hours consuming content that doesn't feed us, doesn't grow us, doesn't bring us closer to our purpose. And at the end of the day, we wonder why we feel drained, why we feel restless, why we feel as if we're always running, but never arriving. I've talked to people who tell me they can't read a book anymore because their mind won't stay still long enough. They can't pray without the urge to check their phone. They can't sit in silence without feeling like they're missing something. And I want you to see what's happening there. That isn't just a bad habit. That's a loss of freedom. Because if you can't give your attention where you choose to give it, then you're no longer in control. Something else is calling the shots. Something else is shaping your thoughts, your priorities, and your life. But it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to live as prisoners of distraction. We can reclaim our time. We can reclaim our focus. We can learn again to give ourselves wholly to the things that matter most. It starts with something as simple as boundaries, putting the phone in another room when you work, turning off the endless stream of notifications, deciding that not every call, not every alert, not every update deserves an immediate response. It's about remembering that the phone is a tool, not a master. And when we do that, we begin to notice something remarkable. Our minds clear. Our work deepens. Our relationships grow richer. We discover that the tasks which once felt overwhelming are not impossible. They simply needed our undivided attention. We find that conversations carry more weight when we're not glancing at a screen every few seconds. We realize that life feels fuller when it's not being constantly interrupted by a device demanding our gaze. What's at stake here isn't just productivity in the sense of getting things done. It's the quality of our lives. It's the ability to pour ourselves into our callings, to be present with the people who matter, to hear the still, small voice of God in a world that's constantly shouting for our attention. And if we're willing to take back that ground, if we're willing to quiet the noise and guard our focus, we'll find that the very drive, the very energy, the very clarity we thought was lost can be restored. When we talk about the impact of these devices, we can't ignore what they're quietly doing to our mental and emotional well-being. For many people, smartphones are not just a convenience. they've become a constant companion. And yet, instead of offering peace, so often they stir up anxiety, they deepen restlessness, and they plant seeds of discontent that slowly take root in the heart. We think we're escaping stress by picking up the phone, but more often than not, we're feeding it. Consider how many times you've opened your phone just to take a quick break. You scroll through social media, glance at a few updates, check the news, and for a moment, it feels like a distraction. But then something happens. You see a picture of someone else's success, their perfect vacation, their beautiful home, their smiling children. And suddenly, without even realizing it, you're comparing. You're measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. What was meant to be a moment of relief becomes a source of discouragement. Instead of feeling rested, you feel smaller, less satisfied, maybe even anxious about what you don't have. That constant comparison is a thief of joy. It leaves us restless because we're always measuring ourselves against standards that aren't even real. We forget that behind every picture is a person with struggles we don't see. Behind every smile is a story we don't know. But the phone doesn't remind us of that. It shows us the polished surface, the perfected image, and it whispers, "You're not enough." That whisper, repeated day after day, can wear down even the strongest heart. And then there's the overstimulation. Our minds were never meant to process the sheer volume of information we take in every single day through these screens. News from across the world, updates from hundreds of acquaintances, endless videos, non-stop headlines, all of it demanding a response, all of it pulling at our emotions. No wonder so many feel anxious. No wonder so many struggle to quiet their minds. We're living in a state of constant mental traffic, and it's exhausting. But perhaps the most concerning part is the way these patterns shape us over time. The more we rely on our phones to soothe us, the less resilient we become. Instead of sitting with discomfort, we escape it by scrolling. Instead of facing our fears, we numb them with distraction. Instead of building the muscles of patience and endurance, we look for instant gratification. Slowly, without even realizing it, we weaken the very qualities we need to thrive in life. I've spoken to people who admit they can't go to bed without one last look at their phone, can't start the day without checking notifications, can't make it through a moment of silence without reaching for a screen. And I want you to see what's happening there. It's not just habit, it's dependency. And dependency robs us of peace. It robs us of joy. It robs us of the stability that comes from knowing who we are, apart from constant stimulation. But here's the good news. We don't have to stay in that place. We can make choices, small but powerful, that protect our mental health from the weight of this constant digital pull. We can set times when the phone is put away, when silence is welcomed instead of avoided. We can take walks without the earbuds, eat meals without the screen, sit in the presence of those we love without the constant tug of notifications. And in doing so, we begin to reclaim something that's been slipping away, our peace of mind. When we quiet the noise, we give our souls room to breathe. We make space for gratitude instead of comparison. We allow stillness to calm the storms of anxiety. And we rediscover that our worth has never been measured by likes or followers or constant digital affirmation. Our worth is found in something far deeper, something unshakable, something no device can give, and no device can take away. There's a reality many of us have quietly accepted without even noticing. We are present in body, but absent in spirit. We show up to the dinner table, to the family gathering, to the walk in the park, but our eyes are fixed on a screen, and our minds are somewhere else entirely. And while life is unfolding right in front of us, children growing, friendships forming, moments of laughter and beauty happening in real time, we miss it. Not because it isn't there, but because we're too distracted to see it. Think about the last time you sat down in a restaurant and looked around. You'll see couples together, families together, groups of friends together, and what's everyone doing? Heads bowed not in prayer, but toward glowing screens. Conversations that could be filled with depth and joy are replaced with silence, punctuated only by the tapping of fingers. We've traded face-to-face connection for digital engagement. We've allowed the moments that should be treasured to slip past unnoticed because our focus is elsewhere. And it's not just relationships that suffer. Our very experience of the world is dulled. The beauty of a sunset is diminished when our first instinct is not to behold it, but to capture it, filter it, and post it. The joy of a child's laughter is missed when we're trying to record it instead of entering into it. Even silence, precious healing silence, is drowned out by constant stimulation. We no longer let ourselves sit still long enough to notice the way the wind sounds through the trees, or how the stars look on a clear night, or how refreshing it is just to breathe deeply without interruption. It's as though our phones have become a lens through which we experience everything. But that lens is fogged. It doesn't sharpen our sight. It blurs it. It reduces the vibrancy of life to something smaller, something flatter, something less real. And the more we live through that lens, the more distant we become from reality itself. This erosion of presence is more dangerous than it seems. Because what is life, really, if not the sum of moments fully lived? If our attention is always divided, if our hearts are never wholly engaged in what's happening right now, then we're not truly living. We're merely existing in fragments. And one day we may look back and realize that some of the most meaningful moments passed. It begins with small, intentional steps. Choosing to set limits. Choosing to put the phone down and walk away. Choosing to cultivate habits that restore your discipline rather than weaken it. It's not easy, because every habit of distraction fights to hold its ground. But with persistence, the chains begin to break. You start to realize that you can, in fact, be still without reaching for a screen. You can spend hours on work, or in prayer, or with loved ones without needing the constant validation of a device. You can live fully present and fully free. And when that happens, you discover a deeper strength within yourself. The strength to shape your life instead of letting your life be shaped for you. The strength to walk in freedom, not in slavery to impulse. The strength to live with intention, to build relationships, to pursue dreams, to fulfill your calling, all without being tethered to something that was never meant to master you in the first place.